And yes, it is hard to know that sometimes politics comes in the way of friendships. And I think JD made this clear in his own response. It is hurtful and it is sad. And
Usha Vance's story begins far from the noise of politics, rooted in a quiet home in San Diego, California. Born in 1986 to Indian immigrant parents, Usha was raised with a deep respect for tradition, hard work, and education. Her mother, Lakshmi, worked as a marine biologist, while her father, an engineer, instilled in her the discipline and curiosity that would shape her future. Welcome back to our channel. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video from us. From an early age, Usha thrived academically. Her dedication carried her from her local schools to the prestigious halls of Yale University and Cambridge. At Yale Law School, she was known for her selflessness and tireless work ethic traits that classmates admired. She once quietly purchased a table from a struggling student to help them make ends meet, a small act that revealed her generous spirit. Raised in the Hindu faith, Usha blended her cultural pride with an American sense of ambition. She was never chasing fame or wealth. Instead, she sought a life filled with meaning, service, and steady achievement. Her upbringing, steeped in rituals and values, emphasizing duty and balance, gave her a resilience that would later become essential. Usha's early life was marked by discipline, strong family ties, and a quiet determination. She grew up valuing education, faith, and community foundations that older generations across America, especially those who came of age in the 1940s and 1950s, would deeply recognize. Before her life entered the political spotlight, Usha Vance was simply a daughter, a scholar, and a woman quietly building a future defined not by applause, but by purpose and perseverance. At Yale Law School, Usha Chilukuri's life took a turn she could never have planned. In 2013, during a discussion group centered on the struggles of working-class white America, she met a fellow student who would later change the course of her life, J.D. Vance. Their initial conversations were built on mutual respect, a shared curiosity about the world, and a commitment to understanding people whose lives were so different from their own. Unlike a whirlwind romance, Usha and J.D.'s relationship began as a strong and steady friendship. They studied together, debated ideas late into the night, and even co-wrote a legal brief during their classes. Their bond deepened over time, rooted in shared values, hard work, faith, and a belief that education could change lives. It wasn't long before admiration turned into affection, and in 2014, they decided to marry. Their wedding was a beautiful blend of cultures, honoring both Usha's Hindu background and JD's Christian upbringing. In a ceremony that many of their professors and classmates attended, they demonstrated that love, when built on respect and shared purpose, could bridge even the widest cultural divides. At that time, Usha was thriving in her legal career. She clerked for Chief Justice John Roberts and future Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, securing a prestigious position at a top Washington, D.C. law firm. She envisioned a future filled with courtrooms, legal briefs, and meaningful victories. Yet love often calls for sacrifices that are both unseen and profound. Older Americans, especially those who lived through the Great Depression or World War II, would recognize the strength and courage it takes to build a marriage on partnership rather than just passion. Usha and JD's union reflected timeless American values, commitment, resilience, and a willingness to stand together no matter what storms came. Though she could not have foreseen it then, Usha's decision to link her life with JD's would later draw her into the harsh lights of political fame and public judgment. But in those early days, it was simply a promise made between two young people who believed deeply in each other and in the life they hoped to build together. When Usha married J.D. Vance, she did not marry into politics. She married a man with dreams, a deep love for family, and a passion for helping forgotten Americans. Yet as often happens in life, dreams grow change and sometimes collide with reality. J.D.'s memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, published in 2016, catapulted him into the national spotlight. Suddenly, the quiet life Usha had imagined filled with legal work. Family gatherings and faith was swept up in a whirlwind of interviews, speaking tours, and political speculation. At first, Usha stood firmly behind her husband, helping edit drafts of his speeches, managing details behind the scenes, and providing the emotional anchor he needed as his fame rose. In 2022, when J.D. decided to run for the United States Senate, Usha made a sacrifice that many in older generations would recognize. She set aside her own promising career to support her husband's calling. She appeared in political ads calling JD her best friend and the best father to their 3 young children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabelle. In private, she wrestled with the loss of her own professional dreams, but her commitment to her family remained steadfast. The world of politics was harsher than Usha expected. As JD aligned himself with President Trump's movement, political opponents and sometimes even supporters attacked Usha personally. Some questioned her background, her faith, and even her place in JD's story. Hurtful words about her Indian heritage circulated on social media. Yet through it all, Usha maintained her dignity, drawing strength from her Hindu faith and her quiet belief in doing the right thing. Older Americans, especially those who lived through turbulent eras like the Civil Rights Movement or the Vietnam War, would understand the sacrifices required when personal values meet public duty. Like many women of previous generations, Usha bore her burdens, silently supporting her husband while shielding her children from the storm. Her sacrifices were not just professional. She left behind a prestigious law career, countless hours spent earning her credentials, and the quiet future she had once pictured. Yet in choosing family and duty over personal ambition, Usha embodied the American values of loyalty, perseverance, and quiet strength, virtues that resonate deeply with a generation who knows what it means to put others first. In 2025, Usha Vance faced one of her most painful public challenges. Hoping to promote goodwill and cultural understanding, she planned a diplomatic visit to Greenland. Her intentions were simple and heartfelt: attend a dog sled race, visit local communities, and build quiet bridges through shared traditions. She even brought her young son along, hoping to show him the power of connection across cultures. However, politics clouded her mission. Greenland's leaders, wary of former President Trump's past comments about annexation, viewed Usha's trip with suspicion. Prime Minister Mute Egede publicly criticized the visit, and local citizens refused to welcome her. Plans for community events were abruptly canceled. Instead, Usha was redirected to a U.S. military base, her presence carefully shielded from public view. The rejection stung months of planning, unraveled in a few short hours, and Danish media reports highlighted the diplomatic snub. Social media was merciless. Critics mocked her efforts, while others questioned why she even attempted the visit at all. Through it all, Usha remained silent, choosing not to defend herself publicly. Older Americans who remember the Cold War or past diplomatic tensions would recognize the bitter taste of political mistrust. Usha's experience showed how even the best intentions can be lost in a climate of suspicion and division. Despite the humiliation, Usha leaned on her inner strength. She processed the pain privately, relying on meditation and family support. The Greenland trip was a painful reminder in public life. Goodwill is not always enough. Yet Usha's quiet grace under pressure revealed a resilience that no public rejection could erase. Throughout the storms of public life, Usha Vance relied on something stronger than political ambition or public approval: her quiet, unshakable inner strength. Raised in the Hindu faith, she had been taught from childhood that life would offer both triumph and hardship, and that true character was forged in how one responded to adversity. After the Greenland incident and months of brutal social media attacks, Usha chose a path less common in today's world: silence, reflection, and private perseverance. She did not lash out at critics, nor did she seek sympathy in the press. Instead, she turned inward, drawing strength from her family, her faith, and her deep sense of duty. Each morning, Usha began her day with meditation and prayer practices that anchored her amid the chaos. Her 3 young children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabelle, remained her greatest joy and her firmest foundation. Shielded from the harsh glare of public judgment, their laughter filled her Washington, D.C. home with a kind of hope that no political scandal could steal. Older generations, especially those who lived through decades of social upheaval, would recognize Usha's approach. It was the same steady resilience shown by Americans during the Great Depression, by families during wartime, and by those who believed that dignity mattered more than noise. Usha's Hindu upbringing emphasized balance between personal sacrifice and personal dignity, between duty to others and duty to oneself. It taught her that storms would pass, but integrity must endure. Even as commentators debated her every move, she remained focused on what truly mattered: raising her children with strength, supporting her husband in private, and holding fast to her values. In an era where anger often wins headlines, Usha Vance chose a different kind of courage, the courage to stay steady, to stay kind, and to let her quiet resilience speak louder than any headline could. Through it all, she proved that true strength is not about shouting over the storm. It is about standing tall through it, no matter how fiercely the winds blow. After enduring the storms of public life, Usha Vance began carving a new identity, one not defined by her husband's political career, but by her own quiet strength and vision. Though she never sought the spotlight, Usha realized that standing silent could allow others to define her story. So with grace and caution, she started stepping forward. In 2025, she hosted a Diwali celebration at the White House, proudly sharing her Indian heritage with Americans from all walks of life. She spoke at women's leadership summits, encouraging young girls to embrace their roots and find courage in their journeys. Her words were measured, thoughtful, and sincere, resonating with audiences who valued authenticity over theatrics. Usha's actions were never about grabbing headlines. Older Americans who remember leaders of quieter conviction would recognize her steady hand. She understood that building respect took time, patience, and unwavering integrity. Even as critics questioned her every move, she stayed focused on values that mattered: family, faith, education, and service. By mid-2025, Usha's public image had shifted. She was no longer seen simply as the vice president's wife. She was emerging as a figure of resilience, an example of how grace under fire combined with purposeful action could quietly change hearts and minds. Her journey showed that true influence often comes not from shouting, but from standing firm when the world watches and waits. As Usha Vance moves forward, she is quietly building a legacy that goes far beyond politics or titles. At 39, she sees her role not as a position to protect, but as a platform to inspire. Her vision is not centered on applause or fame. Instead, it is rooted in lasting impact on her children, her community, and future generations of Americans who come from diverse backgrounds. In 2025, Usha launched a literacy initiative visiting schools to share her childhood love of reading. She spoke at women's leadership events, encouraging young women to find their voice and stand strong in their convictions. These actions were never flashy, never built for headlines. They reflected her steady belief that change happens not through noise, but through consistent, thoughtful effort. Older Americans who value substance over show would recognize and appreciate Usha's approach. Rather than chasing fleeting popularity, she is investing in what endures: education, family, and community service. Her Hindu faith, with its deep respect for life cycles and quiet perseverance, continues to guide her steps. There are whispers that Usha may one day write a memoir not to defend herself, but to tell her story in her own voice, one marked by resilience, grace, and quiet power. Whatever path she chooses next, one truth is clear. Usha Vance is carving a space where her identity is not overshadowed by her husband's career or public opinion. She is building a legacy that speaks to strength through sacrifice, dignity through hardship, and hope through quiet, steady action. Usha Vance's story is one of quiet courage, resilience, and unwavering grace. In a world often dominated by noise, her journey reminds us of the lasting power of dignity and purpose. What are your thoughts on Usha's remarkable path and the legacy she is building? We would love to hear your perspective. Please share your comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring journeys and thoughtful insights. Thank you for watching and being part of our community.